The atmosphere is composed of a gaseous layer that surrounds the Earth. This layer protects us from the vacuum of the space and the electromagnetic radiation emitted by the sun. According to researchers, the Earth was formed 5 billion years ago, and the most of the gases of our atmosphere were thrown into the air by the first volcanoes. The atmosphere acts as a gigantic filter that repels most of the ultraviolet radiation and partially absorbs the warm rays of the sun. Ultraviolet radiation is harmful to living beings. In fact, it is the cause of sunburn. For its part, the solar heat that passes through the atmosphere is necessary for all life on the Earth. The atmosphere has a layered structure such as the troposphere, the stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere, and ionosphere. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere, which extends from the Earth's surface to the beginning of the stratosphere. In this layer is the air we breathe, and it climatizes the process of the air. The clouds we observe and the birds flying make part of the troposphere. In the troposphere are formed the winds, clouds, and the precipitation because the warm, moisture-laden air rises and the cold air descends. These winds depend on the local variations in temperature and the air pressure. The troposphere has a direct contact with the Earth's surface. That's why it is very sensitive to the ocean's evaporation, the water cycle, the photosynthesis of the plants, the respiration of animals, and human activities. The stratosphere is the second layer of the atmosphere, which is located above the troposphere and below the mesosphere. The content of water vapor in the stratosphere is very low. That means that the formation of the stratospheric clouds just occurs in present or low temperatures to lead to the formation of ice crystals. The stratosphere is the protective blanket of the air that houses the ozone layer. That's a mass that works like a shield and protects us from the UV radiation from the sun, avoiding the cancer and skin burns in human beings. The mesosphere is the third layer located above the stratosphere and below the thermosphere. It is the coldest layer, and its gases are made up of oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen. The aim of this layer is to destroy meteors and asteroids before they can reach the Earth's surface. In the mesosphere, sometimes is formed a kind of special clouds, noctilucent clouds, which are close to the north and south poles. Generally, they are higher than any other type of cloud. The thermosphere is the fourth layer of the atmosphere, located above the mesosphere and below the exosphere. The main components of the air in the thermosphere are the atomic oxygen, the atomic nitrogen, and helium. The aim of the thermosphere is to protect and regulate the Earth's temperature by absorbing much of the UV radiation and X-rays emitted by the sun. When the sun is more active, the thermosphere heats up and increases in size, increasing its protective power. The exosphere is the fifth and outermost layer of the atmosphere, beginning at the upper limit of the thermosphere at a point in the atmosphere known as the exobase, exopost, or critical altitude. The exosphere is composed by very low densities of hydrogen, helium, and other heavier molecules, including nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide closer to the exobase. The exosphere is the most distant layer from the atmosphere, but it constitutes the first line of defense of the planet against the rays of the sun and meteors. This layer is perfect to put satellites because there are not much friction and they can orbit easily. The ionosphere contains a relatively large number of electrically charged atoms and molecules. These charged particles are created due to extraterrestrial radiation, mainly from the sun, on neutral atoms and air molecules in the atmosphere. This layer overlaps the mesosphere, thermosphere, and exosphere. The ionosphere influences the propagation of radio waves to distant places on the planet, as well as between satellites on Earth. So guys, remember, the atmosphere protects us from the vacuum of the space and the electromagnetic radiation emitted by the sun, and its layers are the troposphere, the stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere, and ionosphere. The troposphere is the air we breathe, and it climatizes the process of the air and the clouds we observe. The mesosphere is the layer that destroys the meteors and asteroids before they can reach the Earth's surface. The thermosphere is the layer that protects and regulates the Earth's temperature by absorbing much of the radiation. The exosphere is the most distant layer from the atmosphere, but it constitutes the first line of defense of the planet against the rays of the sun and meteors. The ionosphere contains a relatively large number of electrically charged atoms and molecules,